Okay, so we'll see how this goes. This is on page 391 of the textbook. This is the 8th edition of the C++ programming program design, including data structures, Malloc book. I'm on page 391, and it basically says they're talking about value and reference parameters in memory allocation. And they mentioned the following program shows how reference and value parameters work. So I thought this might be a good one to look at to get some examples. And they have little diagrams as well, like on page 393. They kind of show what refers back to what and so forth. I'm going to try to draw it myself as we trace through the code. Okay. So, like I said, I haven't looked at this one before, so let's see what it does. And I might use some shorthand or something on some of this if I don't feel like typing out everything that they have output. All right, so what do we have here? So we have the main function, right? We have a couple of other functions, fun1 and fun2. And if you look at those function headings or the function prototypes up there, both of those have 3 parameters that are going into it. But like on fun1, the first one's by value, the second one's by reference, and the third is by value. So those are the things that are going to be kind of at the heart of this example. You know, what's by value, what's by reference, and what affects a what, you know. So in fun2, first parameter is by reference, second one is by value, third one is by reference, right? So that's important to note. All right, so I'm going to try to keep up with some notes as I trace through this. Okay. So like in our main function, let's see how this goes. Here's our main function. Okay. So what do we have inside of main? There's some variables that get declared there, num1 and num2, right? So I'm going to make notes of that. Num1 and num2. And then ch is a character. All right, and then in lines 15, 16, and 17, they assign values to those things, right? So num1 is 10, num2 is 15, ch is a, capital A. All right, and then in line 19, there's an output statement. So it'll output like line 12 inside main, num1 is equal to the value of num1, comma, num2 is equal to the value of num2, and ch is equal to the value of num3. So basically what they're doing there is outputting those values. So I might just kind of shorten that a little bit, but you know, just so that we know what's going on. So down here I'm going to put, this is what the output is. All right. So again, it's going to output something like line 12, colon, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just going to say num1 is equal to, so what is num1? 10. Num2 is 15. And ch is a, all right? That's hard to read on there. Sorry. It looks better on here. All right, so, but you get the idea, right? And then we call fun1. So what happens? So in fun1, I'm going to make a note here. Yeah, you kind of have to look and see what you're sending in what order. Fun1. Okay. So we're sending num1, num2, and ch in that order, okay? So we're going to skip down to fun1. Remember, num1, num2, and ch. But they use different names down here, right? They're not using the same names. So what are the names down here in fun1? We have A. That one's by value, right? There's no ampersand. So that means it has its own memory location. And then B, that one is by reference, so it's going to refer back to something. And then V is by value as well. So what goes with what? So is it num1, num2, and ch, right? So num1, so A down here is going to get a copy of whatever num1 is, because that's the first parameter in the list. So A gets a copy of num1, which is 10. B is by reference, right? Because there's the ampersand there. So B is going to refer back to the second parameter, which is num2. So it doesn't have its own memory location, it refers back. And then ch is the third parameter. Ch was A, so V gets a copy of that. So it stores an A here. Okay. So what happens down here in fun1? So in fun1, we've got our parameters set up. Then they have another variable that gets declared in line 40, 1. It's a local variable to fun1. And they say 1 is equal to A. Okay, so 1 is now equal to 10, right? Because A was 10. And then what happens in the next line? A++. So it adds 1 to A, right? So A, which was 10, is now 11, right? Does that affect anything over in main? No, right? Because that one was passed by value. That's why I like to kind of draw the diagrams. Because if you try to keep track of everything in your head, you're probably going to mess up someplace. So A is now 11. And then in line 44, they say B is equal to B times 2. So B is the one that refers back to num2, and num2 was 15, right? So when I change B to 15 times 2, which is 30, what is happening? When I change B to 30, it's changing num2 back in main because it was passed by reference. It refers back. So that's now 30. All right, and then in line 45, when they say V is equal to capital B, it's changing the copy, right? So V is now capital B, like that. All right, so in line 47, they output some stuff. Line 26, inside fun1, and they output stuff. I'll just put line 26. I'll shorten it a little bit. A is equal to what? 11? B is equal to what? 30? Yeah, it's pretty easy as long as you do the diagram, right? To keep track of stuff. V is equal to B, and 1 is equal to 10. Like that. And that's the end of fun1. And then we skip back to where we were. That was back in line, after line 23. So in line 25, they output stuff back in main. So what does it output? So it's going to output something like line 14 colon, or after fun1. I'm going to skip that part. And it'll output num1 is equal to, and whatever it is, it's still 10. And then num2 is equal to, that one got changed to 30, right? Because we changed b. And ch is still a. Cool. And then we call fun2. So the similar thing is going to happen. So it's going to skip down to fun2. Oh, and we're sending in, pay attention to what we're sending in. In fun2, we're sending in num2, 25, and ch. So you can send an actual literal value like that, like a 25, as long as it's by value. You can't do that if it's a reference parameter. But if it's a value parameter, you can do that. So we're sending num2, 25, and ch. So I'm going to leave that up there just for a second so I can kind of map this out. All right, so here's fun2. I think I have room for this. Here's the fun2 function. So in fun2, I've got x, y, and w. X, y, and w. X is by reference, so it refers back to the first parameter in the list, which is num2. Everybody see that? The first parameter that I sent in was num2. So x is going to refer back to num2. So I'm going to draw an arrow back to it. And then y is by value, no ampersand on there. So it gets its own memory location, and I'm just sending 25, right? So it gets a value of 25 in there. And then w is by reference. So it refers back to the third parameter, which is ch. So w refers back to this guy. And so let's see what it does. All right, so now I'm down in fun2. So the first line in line 54 says x++. So we're adding 1 to x, but x refers back to num2, right? So it's updating that by 1. So it's not 30 anymore, it's 31. I'm going to just make a note to the right of it there. And then in line 55, y is equal to y times 2. So y, again, was by value. So we're just multiplying 25 times 2 and assigning it back to itself. So y now becomes 50. That's a 50. And then in line 56, w is equal to capital G. So when I change w, again, because it's by reference, it's referring back to ch back in main. So when I change that to G, it's changing it back there. And so in line 58, we've got an output line, so it's going to say something like line 33 inside fun2. I'm going to skip that part just to save space. They'll output what? X is equal to, what is X? 31, yeah. Comma. Y is equal to 50. And W is equal to G. Yeah. and then it skips back to where we were in main. And again, I'm not showing the lifetime thing going on. Technically, A and V over there reach the end of its lifetime, and after fun 1 and after fun 2 is finished, Y here will go away. It'll reach the end of its lifetime. But that's not really what the problem is focused on. And so back over here in main where we left off, there's one more output statement in line 31. Now it's going to output line 16. And I'll put after fun 2, num1 is equal to whatever. So num1, num2, and ch. So it's going to output what? Num1 equal, so what is num1? 10? It's still 10, and it hasn't changed this whole time. Num2 is equal to 31, and ch is equal to g. So that should be our output. So let's run it and see if we're right. So is that consistent with what we got? So inside, let's see, line 12, we got 10, 15, and A. Line 26, we've got 11, 30, B, and 10. Line 14, we've got 10, 30, and A. And then in line 33, we've got 31, 50, and G. And then in 16, we've got 10, 31, and G. Awesome. Does that make sense? Sort of? I thought that one was worth looking at just because it's more of kind of a problem, right? We wrote a program that used reference parameters, but I think it's good to, this one has a few tricky things to watch out for, right? Because they use different names in the functions, so you had to make sure you knew what was referring back to what and stuff. Cool. Anybody have any questions about that one? Does that make sense? Y'all are really quiet. Okay. Very good. I'm going to stop this.